What's up everyone, welcome back to another video with the Millennial Finance. A hot topic that has recently been debated all over social media and even among politicians is regarding the further allowance of more withdrawals from EPF. On the one hand, allowing more EPF withdrawals can help those people who really need that extra bit of cash. On the other hand, however, allowing more EPF withdrawals can not only be detrimental to the individual, but also to the families, societies, and our country as a whole. So today, I'll be talking about why I think allowing more EPF withdrawals is not the best way forward. Disclaimer, this video isn't meant to be political in any way. I'm looking at it from an economical point of view. So, the first reason why I don't think allowing more EPF withdrawals should be a thing is that Malaysians already don't have a lot of savings for their retirement. So EPF has recently released some pretty damning statistics regarding the saving rates of their members ever since they started allowing withdrawals from 2020. As EPF was established to help Malaysians save up for their retirement, their hope is, of course, for every single Malaysian to have just enough money to continue surviving beyond the retirement age so they don't have to live in poverty. On a broader level, EPF recorded its first ever drop in its assets under management, or more commonly known as AUM, in their entire history. With about 1 trillion ringgit in assets under management, EPF is actually one of the largest retirement funds in the world. However, they did see a slight dip of 0.7% in 2022 as Malaysians withdrew up to 145 billion ringgit from EPF. Many people may be wondering, why do we care if EPF sees a reduction in their AUM? Well, in my opinion, EPF doesn't actually really mind seeing this minor drop in their AUM because this doesn't really impact them. In fact, a fund as large as EPF would actually struggle to give consistently high returns that can at least beat inflation to their members. Usually, the smaller the fund is, the easier it is to generate higher returns. So I don't think that EPF is desperately trying to increase AUM, especially when we're talking about from an investment perspective. Warren Buffett has mentioned that if you give him a portfolio of just $1 million to manage, he can easily generate a return of 30 to 50% every single year. However, as Berkshire Hathaway has gotten so big, it's in the hundreds of billions of dollars right now, they can no longer do the same, instead aiming for around the 3 to 5% mark. Anyway, back to the topic of saving for retirement. EPF suggests a minimum of 240,000 ringgit for your retirement savings in EPF. This is, in my opinion, the absolute bare minimum, especially if you live in urban cities with high cost of livings or have commitments to still pay. At this point though, 2/3 of Malaysians have less than 50,000 ringgit in their EPF accounts. If you look under the hood, then things look a lot worse. As to be expected, the B40 group withdrew the most from EPF during this period, followed by the M40. Their median savings in EPF fell by 70% and 34% respectively to just 577 ringgit for those in the B40 and 19,926 ringgit for those in the M40 category. This is a reality check on how little savings 80% of the Malaysian population has for their retirement. Even if another round of withdrawals are allowed, how much can Malaysians really withdraw from their EPFs? Like I said, the median person in the B40 group, which are the ones who need the money the most, only has about 500 ringgit. So the result of this goes without saying. The average Malaysian just does not have enough money to retire comfortably. This will lead to them having to work the odd job even as they reach the age of the 60s when they have to retire, just so that they can fund their day-to-day lives. But there is an argument going around about how EPF money is your money and you should be able to do whatever you want with it. While that is true that it is your money, not having enough money saved up for retirement will not only impact you. And this brings me to the next point, in that if you do not have enough money for your retirement, you will impact other members of society such as your family members. Oftentimes, retirees who do not have enough in savings will then have to rely on people like their family members, friends, or support from their government to continue living. I'll first touch on the impact on your closest relatives. I'm a true believer that while charity always starts at home, parents cannot treat their kids like a savings account that they will use when they retire. If you require consistent financial support from your kids as you grow older, this takes away from their own lives but also the lives of your future generations. For example, think about it this way. If I'm a working professional and I earn a good amount of money, but I have to support my parents, which means that I wire them money every single month. And I'm not talking about those small allowances that you can give to your parents every single month. Even I myself give some money to my mom every month, just, as part of culture. What I'm talking about is actually having to sustain your lives and pay for every single thing. The thing is, if you have to support your parents fully financially, then you're taking away money that you could have used to build your own career, to progress even further, or even to build the careers of your future children. This is in fact a problem that South Africa is facing as a developing nation, terming the people who are stuck supporting two generations financially as the sandwich generation. And it's not just there. Reports have suggested that 1 in 8 Americans have to support not only their kids, themselves, but also they have to support their own parents. Now, I'm not saying that if you have parents who are retired, who do not have enough in your savings, that you should no longer be supporting them. Of course, their choices have been made, their lives have been lived, and if you can, by all means, support them financially. What I'm trying to say is that you, as someone who are in their 20s or 30s who have so much more of their lives ahead, do you want to continue placing that financial burden on your future generations, or do you want to save up for yourself? The next obvious solution is then, why don't governments fund them instead? While that is an ideal solution, in my opinion, no country can sustainably do this in the long run. You can see this in France. People in Paris are protesting because the government has increased the retirement age from 62 to 64. This means that people will only receive their pensions if they work that extra 2 years, which the French people are of course angry with, but it's something that in my opinion the French government just has no choice on. The fact of the matter is, these governments, even though yes, they may have pension systems that Malaysia does not have, they're facing major problems that they cannot sustain in the long run. Now let's take an example from the US. They have something like EPF, they call it the 401k, except that it is completely optional. It is up to each individual on whether they want to contribute to this in the long run. Since it's voluntary, most people don't end up saving for retirement, so the US government has a program called the Social Security Program in place to help give people who retire without a lot of savings just a livable amount of money every single month. You might think, yes, this is perfect and this is what every country should strive towards. The thing is, the Social Security Administration has already projected that their fund will be completely depleted by 2037. They just do not have enough money to support the growing amount of the old population, which will only continue growing further. As a result, they're scrambling to find alternatives for future generations, such as mandatory contributions to retirement, just like EPF. In Australia, they've had a pension system for a while that again supports everyone who has retired, but they've also introduced something called the superannuation, which is a mandatory contribution from all employees. This comes as their government considers also removing pensions for employees due to skyrocketing costs. So it's clear that while a pension system would be perfectly ideal for every country's citizens, we just retire and we get money from the government every single month, but many governments just cannot support this kind of programs in the long run because they don't have enough money, much less a developing country like Malaysia. And even if the Malaysian government can help with a pension program to help retirees, any cost incurred here is an opportunity cost in developing the nation, which again impacts our future generations. The final point regarding not allowing further EPF withdrawals is that it will become a slippery slope. In fact, it's already happening right now, which is why many people are demanding for more EPF withdrawals. For those of you who don't know, the slippery slope fallacy is where a relatively small first step leads to a chain of events that eventually becomes a big problem. That's why they call it the slippery slope. You make that first step, you slip, and you just fall all the way down that slope. The first step in this instance was of course allowing EPF withdrawals in the first place. I understand that this was 100% necessary for some Malaysians, especially over the last 2 years, and other countries like Australia and Chile has also done the same thing. But to prevent an eventual major issue down the line, the fall needs to stop, which is why those two countries have already stopped their special withdrawal programs. But because we've all had the opportunity of having the extra bit of cash being injected into our bank accounts, we'd always have the feeling of wanting more. It's our money after all, right? Why can't we have it to enjoy now? The argument right now is just for the allowance of more EPF withdrawals, but down the line, this could lead to more and more arguments, and maybe people would think, why do we even need EPF in the first place? Without mandatory EPF contributions, we'd all have an extra 23 to 24% extra cash in our bank accounts every single month. If, for example, you're earning 10,000 ringgit, that's an extra 2,300 ringgit every single month, which is massive. Looking at other countries with voluntary contribution plans, and we will know that this will simply not work. In fact, financial literacy in Malaysia is so poor at only 36% compared to neighbouring Singapore's 78%. If we don't have mandatory contributions, I'm sure that the retirement savings of Malaysians will be a lot lower than where it is now. Hopefully, channels like ours and many others in Malaysia helps increase this because we just can't be losing to Singapore. Having said all of this, I fully acknowledge that there's just no perfect solution right now. The proposal to allow individuals to take loans with EPF as their collateral seems like a decent idea because it means that only those who really need the money will take on this offer. On the other hand, encouraging more debt among the poor will never be a good thing. Sooner rather than later, a better solution must be proposed. I've been extremely impressed by EPF's CEO who has directly called out that the solution to this problem must be the increase of wages in Malaysia. Although this isn't easy and will take a lot more time to implement, it is definitely a more sustainable solution that can be run for the long term. After all, we already know that there's not much left in EPF among the B40 in Malaysia to withdraw in the first place. So allowing them to withdraw that, 500 ringgit from the EPF accounts, maybe it wins you some popularity votes, but 3-4 months down the line, you'll have to think about how you're going to help them again. So, if you have enough money for your daily necessities, then I highly discourage you from touching your EPF money, even if they allow it down the line. My general principle to most people is that if you don't have discipline or ability to save up money from your monthly paycheck, then at the very, very minimum, don't touch your EPF. With the mandatory contribution rate of around 23 to 24% and the annual dividend payout of around 5 to 6%, it's actually an extremely good savings plan that we should be thankful for in the long run. Anyway, thanks for watching this video to the end, guys. Give us a huge thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Let us know down in the comments below, have you withdrawn from your EPF over the last 2 years? See you guys in the next one. Peace out.